reason I started brewing was because 10 years ago you couldn't buy IPA in South Africa at all. They were pre-Devil's Peak. So I travelled quite extensively on business and fell in love with IPA. So I decided I better learn how to brew because I can't fucking buy the stuff here. And I basically spent the last 10 years brewing hobby beer. And my general comment on South African beer is it needs more hops. Including all the famous IPAs. Except for agars and maybe one or two of the things that Afro-Caribbean do now. Anyway, but and then I brewed, I don't know, 100 IPAs, and I started figuring out maybe there was a little more to life that I needed to explore because through happenstance and an unfortunate someone died who ran the Warthogs, Kevin Ryan, I got kind of thrown into, well, shit, someone's got to take over, and I took over.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace, Kevin.
Yeah, rest in peace, Kevin. He's an amazing guy, did an amazing job, built that club to the kind of house that it is today. And yeah, so I got thrust into the hot seat and had to sort of figure out where to from here. And I thought, well, shit, I've been brewing like 2 or 3 beers a year before that. So the first year I took over Warsies, I brewed 14 beers, I think. And then I've just carried on like that because 14 or more beers a year. Because I better learn how to brew properly now if I'm trying to run a 100 club. So I've got a double for you, just because I couldn't afford to go to West Mall, which is where
Bruce, you're a legend.
So I tried to brew one. Yes, well, there's anyway, so reasonable is 7%. I hope it's anyway, so there we go. So last year I started experimenting with sour beers. I brewed shit tons of sour beer last year, including some spilly sour stuff and kettle sour beers and other things. And then this year I thought, well, let me go on a Belgian mission. So I brewed, I don't know, 8 or 10 Belgian beers this year, from Grisettes to Saisons to triples, doubles, etc. I don't know, I can't remember the list. Because I'm always drunk. And yeah, so a few months ago, Albie said, oh, we're printing shit, I need your talks title. So I said, the story of 2 Belgian beers, sweet and a sour, which is kind of those, and then I changed my mind. So sorry, that's not what I'm telling you. Sorry, don't discuss around the bride. I was going to tell LB I'm changing the talk.
No, you can't. Don't even let
So, Benjamin Franklin supposedly said beer is proof that God wants us to be happy. Only he didn't really say that. It's just it's just a bad internet quote. They're often not true. Abraham Lincoln said that. And basically, the disclaimer for my talk, it's all research internet. Like the anti-vaxxers do.
Yeah.
So it's probably all wrong.
Yeah, baby, I'm a lady. Good Lord, Bruce. Good Lord.
All of it.
It's not going there? No. Not much, all right. So please don't religiously fact check this talk. And I also know that, so most of it's sourced from the internet, but also from books, which are probably also not fact checked. Doctorates in microbiology and stuff. So a lot of it's probably completely fucking wrong. It's really intimidating talking in front of 3 microbiology doctorates. About yeast. Because Belgian beer is all about yeast. So anyway, so it's mainly just sort of anecdotal. So Belgium, that's what I started about Belgium. So it's about a third of the size of KZN. That's Belgium, not that. That's Belgium, and it's divided into kind of two main regions and a little one on the side.
A little one on the side.
So 11 million people. It's the headquarters of the European Union and NATO. I said I'd talk about politics.
And later, defense.
It's got some distinctive regions. Flanders in the north and Wallonia on the south. Flanders is Flemish and or Dutch. Well, if you've been to Flemish, is like Afrikaans. So basically, you've got a bunch of Dutchmen at the top here. And then there's also some German kind of communities there. And then,
I have another question. Do any of them make beer?
All of them.
It's famous for chocolate French fries with mayonnaise, waffles, like a lot of cuisine. Cycling is big there because it's fucking flat. And their football team is known as the Red Devils, so I said I'd bring Satan into it. And most famously famous for beer. To a point where UNESCO recognizes beer and Belgian beer culture as like part of it, as like a World Heritage sort of UNESCO thing. So they drink about 1,000 years, they've been brewing there for 1,000 years, and there are over 1,000 beers in Belgium. In fact, from the latest annual report of the Belgian Brewing Association, there's 1,500 different Belgian beers last year. It's fertile soil, it's perfect for barley and hops production. It's had constant invasions, occupations, cultural and religious shifts, and they've each left behind beer influences, which has created these diverse styles and super high quality. It's home to the largest brewing conglomerate in the world, AB InBev, who some of you may hate. I love, depending on your perspective.
You love.
And they produce brands like Stella Artois, Budweiser, Castle Lager. And others. Well, Interbrew was the biggest brewing company in Europe, and then it bought Anheuser-Busch, and it bought blah blah blah. Anyway, so it's not AB InBev. As I said, Belgian beer culture recognized by UNESCO as part of the cultural heritage. And they're busy currently building a big beer world thing in the middle of Brussels, in the capital, on the side of the old stock exchange. It's also the site of the tomb of John I Gambrinus, the king of beer. So it's so important to them. The government, they're using government money to build the biggest museum to beer in the world.
Whoa!
When I think about our government's view on beer, up here will tell you, we are seen as a sin industry and disgusting and terrible and put hurdles in place and whatever. They actually celebrate it as part of their heritage. as like a huge part of their culture, and to the point where they're almost rebuilding a whole section of Brussels in the name of beer.
So that's
So,
politics.
yeah.
That's politics. That's the problem with politics.
Well, like I said, politics and religion.
World beer is now the middle.
There we go. Politics and religion.
So as I said, a lot of this, there's a huge beer heritage and lots of stuff. So you know, brief history of brewing. Egyptians taught the Greeks, according to the internet, taught the Greeks how to brew, and then they taught the Romans. And brewing spread across Europe about 2,000 years ago in some way, form, or manner. And it was basically a way to stop drinking frothed water. Like it was safer to drink beer than water.
There's a saying,
True story.
wine there is wisdom, in beer there is strength, in water there is death.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you know, and the Roman Empire dissolved, and churches took over the brewing duties, and they owned the land, and therefore had barley crops and hops on their land, and they then built monasteries and set up brewing to glorify the Lord, to glorify God. And beer was cheap, a cheap, safe alternative to dirty, diseased drinking water. You know, we all know what water is good for: rust, disease, and fish fucking it. Beer was also seen as like a major way for the Benedictine monks to sustain themselves or to get some nutrition during their fasting. You know, so they weren't allowed to eat bread, so they used the next grain-based product, which was beer during their fasting, which made that tolerable. I could like be a monk if I could.
What the fucking of the fishermen, yeah.
No, there's a lot of.
You know, beer makes you have a religious history. Beers were made from barley, water, naturally wild yeasts, as has been mentioned earlier. Herbs for flavour, but they went frothed quickly. So beer was a thing that, like, basically you brewed and consumed fast and constant. It was you know, there was no aging in the early days. So more politics. Hops were slowly introduced by the bloody Germans.
Bloody Germans.
And the German ones started using them like 1,000 years ago. And this hops tradition slowly spread across Europe and Belgium in the Brabant region, so in that more German side and then across. And then the German Reinheitsgebot kind of kicked in 1516, and it affected parts of Belgium, because Belgium only became a country quite recently, you know, in the late 1800s. It was, part of it was part of the greater German sort of empire that was affected by Reinheitsgebot. But the Flanders, you know, they resisted, because that was the Gauls. You know, Asterix and Obelix were in Flanders, they were French Gauls, and they were, you know, they were rebellious people.
Magic potion.
Yeah, they travel all the time. So they resisted, and to some extent, the Belgian monasteries believed hops were evil. They banned it.
Well, the reason why that was involved, because it was actually a breakaway from the church. So the church had rights towards the little tea bags that they would sell, little herbs and everything to give to the brewers to actually brew. And then hops came about.
Holy tea bag.
Lots of brewers adopted the more French methods. So coriander, cherries and raspberries were used as flavour. So we started getting these fruited ales and some of those kind of spicier characters coming through in their beers. And then alternative methods such as acidification were actually used as a preservative. So souring was actually, lactic is a preservative, helps low pH, not much bugs grow in there. So it was actually a preservative pre-hop. So we had more politics.
More religion.
After the French Revolution in 1789, the French basically expelled the Trappists from France. And they set up Trappist monasteries in Belgium. And the first one of those started brewing in 1836, West Mall. And then when the French occupied Brussels under Napoleon in 1815, a lot of champagne was drunk, and you know, like Napoleon brought all the champagne things along, and the brewers started using champagne bottles to do secondary fermentation because they were nice and thick and strong, and started to their sour lambic beers by adding sugar or young beer, and that became Guza, which is like the sort of famous.
Is that how you say that?
So Guza, Cantillon is probably the most famous Guza producer. Some of you want to buy shares in my bottle, I bought it for £20. Discuss it later. Anyway, so and then but a lot of other stuff like beer was all taxed, but the low taxes on beer meant that beer was cheaper to produce than wine, and then beer flourished in Brussels and in Belgium. And in 1907 there were 3,400 breweries in Belgium before World War I.
There's 3,000 in France.
And Pilsners started becoming more popular at the same time. And then we had 2 world wars which completely fucked up the brewing industry. So during World War II, the Germans raided all the monasteries, took out all the copper, melted it down to make bullets with. So there was only one of the Trappist breweries was left with its original fermenters and brew house, and that was Westmalle. For some reason, because it was on a river and strategically placed, the Germans just sort of went around it. But all that was raided. And it really, so they all had to rebuild after World War II. Severely affected the industry. Anyway, so that's enough of that crap. So Belgium has this vast range because of all these different political and religious sort of influences. So they have basically sweet, sour, and everything in between. They have these Abbey and Trappist ales, so singles, doubles, triples, quadruples, and dark strongs. Those are kind of a category on their own. This is hopefully an attempt at a non-religious Trappist style beer.
It says a little bit religious.
Well, it should make you a little bit religious.
It should make you talk about God.
Then you get the farmhouse, the more farmhousey ales, so the Saisons, Pierre de Garde, Grisette, those sort of wonderful French influenced ales, aromatic ales, and then these kind of other beers. So blonde is not a Trappist style. So Belgian blonde, Belgian strong pales. We know those like Duvel is the famous one. Belgian pale ales, the likes of Palm and Whippy, which is that kind of coriander-y. And then the sour ales. Which are really at a homebrew level super difficult to do properly. And I'll explain why. So the lambics, claros, fruited lambics, Flanders reds, oak brewings, and then, quadruple and dark strong was a bad copy error, and I didn't read this 4 in the morning when I wrote. So Trappists and Abbeys, there's a lot of politics about this as well. The Trappist monks and the Trappistine nuns belong to the Cistercian order of strict observance, whatever the fuck that means. According to Wikipedia. Anyway, the reformist movement really started in France at La Trappe Monastery. Sorry, not La Trappe. La Trappe Monastery. La Trappe. And currently there are only 5 licensed Trappist abbeys left in Belgium. Akil lost its Trappist license in January this year because their last monk died.
What?
So the average age of monks in Trappist breweries is 70.
70?
Yeah. So it's dying. It's they're now young monks. No one wants to be.
No one wants to be a bloody monk.
So they're having a massive problem.
How do you qualify to become a winning apprentice?
Abstinence.
Well, I don't know. It's not
That's part of religion.
Listen, if you can drink whilst being a monk, is that not good enough?
Yeah, I think it's the other stuff that.
It's never good enough if you're
So the current five Trappist beers are Orval, and Orval actually makes sour beer. So the Orval beer doesn't conform to the normal, to the other Trappist beers. It's a red beer.
Welcome.
Chimay, West Letteren, Rushworth, and West Malt. Echo lost its status in January this year. Abbey beers are often beers brewed in other monasteries, so by other religious sects that aren't Trappists. But they often have some sort of connection. Often commercial beers taking advantage of the confusion, so the likes of Marisus, yeah, there are a whole lot of them that claim to be sort of religious. What's the other one that SAB own? You can get on tap now. They got, no. Anyway, they've got a picture of a chapel on their label and everything, but it's owned by
Leafy.
So St. Bernardus, a lot of you have had St. Bernardus quadruple, St. Bernardus 12, it's a fantastic, it's one of the top quads in the world. They were historically actually brewed under license from West Letteren, so they had the connection because the monks only wanted to brew however many times they wanted to brew, and so they actually licensed their brewing, out-licensed their brewing to St. Bernardus. So it is basically the West Letteren.
No, Bruce. Actually, the brewery was destroyed during World War II. Actually, and they gave it to St. Bernardus to take over to brew while they redid theirs.
But that arrangement carried on for 50 years.
Yeah, too long, but they still used Westminster yeast.
Yes, and so a lot of the time, so West Letteren also only has one monk now left in charge of brewing, and every time they have a brew house problem, they call in the monks from West Mall to go and help them in their brew house. So there's a lot of cooperation between these Trappist monasteries. They share yeast, they share technique. So West Letteren, when they got this Trappist, when they formed this Trappist organisation, affiliation, basically they revoked the license of St. Bernardus to brew their beer, but basically, the reading between the lines, it's the same beer still.
It is when you drink St. Bernardus.
That's so stupid.
It is so stupid.
But basically, every beer is kind of anything goes. Okay, so a little bit about Double. It was originally brewed by West Mall. It's kind of the description, and this isn't the BJCP one, by the way. I think the other thing in reading Stan Aronovus' book called Brew Like a Monk. Yeah.
Sorry, Bruce. I drank all the double you gave me. Can I have another double before you go into this part of the talk?
I'll get a fresh one. You did what?
Sorry, just hand out some more.
My bad. You drank what?
Okay, I know it's exciting to get more beer, but okay, so I haven't used the BJCP description. As I said, when Stan Aronovus spoke to all these guys, he spent like a year in Belgium writing a book called Brew Like a Monk. And the monks actually and the Belgians found this attempt by the BJCP to classify their beers like totally hilarious, because they don't classify their beers much. And if you look at Chimay, their descriptors are numbers based. They don't call their beer a double or a triple or quad, but BJCP kind of tries to put them in these boxes. And the Belgians find that highly amusing. And I know we've got to have some guidelines to judging by, but generally speaking, and this is by Stuart Foster, who's the famous beer writer in Europe. It's a mahogany in color. It should froth into a fawn head when poured, normally into a goblet style glass. Sorry, we didn't quite get
Yeah, sorry about the glass.
didn't like it. It's all good. It should have a malty aroma. Initially tastes relatively sweet. The flavour rounds and softens while it's held in the mouth. Finish is mild, full body, particularly satisfying beer savour on cool evenings. I think thanks to the weather.
No, thank you, Edmund.
I think this is okay. I'm quite pleased with it. I was super nervous bringing it along, but I'm
It's a beautiful book.
very nice.
Beautiful presentation.
Yeah. So they need to be 6 to 8%. This is on the 8% side. Brown ale, understand good, very heavy body, pronounced creaminess and zero cap. So that's what I've tried to brew. That's enough about dual. Let's talk about the more rebellious side of Belgian brewing. So lambic is used. Generally, lambic is spontaneous fermentation, 40% unmalted wheat, and then 60% barley malt. This is the cool ship at Cantillon. They've got shutters in the ceiling there that they manually open and close.
They do that in Franschhoek as well.
Yeah.
So
So last time I was there, they weren't using their cool ship. So they open and close these things, but there's a lot of speculation that actually a lot of these bugs are living in the wood. And a lot of the bugs are actually housed inside the brew house, and the wind just sort of shares them around. But that's what the cool ship looks like. They use decoctions and boiling water and decoctions and boiling water to gradually increase the mash temperature. And then a 3 plus hour boil with old hops, like 3, 4, 5-year-old hops that have lost their bittering power but retain some antiseptic properties. Brewed most within a 15-kilometer radius of Brussels, because that's where the right flora exists. Mainly in the Western districts due to their microbial flora in the area, in Pajottenland or whatever it's called. So a district in Belgium. It's an industrial district. I mean, it's in the middle of factories and shit. You kind of like, how does these beautiful flora exist in an industrial area? But that's where they all are. I'll raise some pics now. And then they brew only in winter. So when we're in lower temperatures.
Summer.
Winter. Mid-October to mid-May there is winter.
Okay.
autumn to
winter. So during when the temperature drops, if they do it at higher temperatures, they get bugs, unwanted bugs in the beer. And then works in inoculation in cool ships. We've spoken about that before. Overnight the work cools. The next morning they pump it into these wooden footers. So they debug. They do. Your open inoculation, and then they stick it in wooden footers, and then they stick it in there for a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Undefined period of time.
Huh?
Undefined period.
Well, a minimum of a year there, Cantillon, for the young lambic. And then a series of fermentations happen as different yeast and bacteria colonies kind of compete for dominance in the work based on what's happening, and I hope that's right. But basically, as the pH changes, it creates conditions for different bacteria and different yeasts to do their work and to colonize the word in some kind of sequencing. Again, doctoral, this is where I get nervous. So in the kind of first week, you get an acetic production. Then over the next 2 to 3 weeks, you get some beer yeast starting to compete and take over to form the main alcohol fermentation over a very slow, long period. And then you start getting Pedococcus and Lactobacillus starting to dominate, producing lactic acid and a big pH drop. And then the bread starts working. Some of these probably happen at the same time, I don't know. And then you know, they then blend lambics of different ages out of different barrels to get the right flavor profile. And then they use this method champenois that the French introduced to their champagne, produced by putting young beer together with aged beer to create enough sugars to re-ferment in the bottle. So it's quite a complicated process. And there we have that is locked. So there's just some pictures. Came to you on this on a mesh. So it's all the old factory equipment.
It looks like they found that in like a fairies space.
Yeah. So I've got a mate who went there and sorry, I meant to bring a whole lot of his photo. And he said there's dusty and there's fucking spider webs everywhere. And it's like a real like dodgy place. Boone, this is Boone, Boone's Pudders. You can see that these massive tanks are like that. And then so they're all in these sort of old industrial areas. Okay, so enough of that. Let's talk about the devil.
Yeah! Preach!
I might put notes on this slide. We basically dribble, strong, brewed a very strong pale ale. It's up at sort of 8 or 9% alcohol.
Is that this? Is that what we're talking about?
No. This is Duvel. This is Duvel. So these are. So again, in reaction to all these religious beers, the rebellious Belgians go and say, let's pay tribute to the devil by making high alcohol beer. It tastes sneaky and fucks you up.
The lights are being...
So we've had Duvel. It's easy drinking, super lekker, and you think, I'll have one, and then you think, I'll have another one, and the next thing you're like Michelle, and you're in the corner. Satan, Judas, and beautiful. Those are just the four kind of most famous Belgian ones, but the Americans have taken over. They bring a lot of devil references in these Belgian Golden Strong across the world now. I think it's very cool. They kind of rock and roll beers, not too racist, but I think it's quite a cool, interesting reaction that in Belgium you have these super religious beers and then this complete rebellion, A, into sour beers and B, into and that can all exist in a little country sort of, the size of from here to Maritzburg and back. Anyway.
That is amazing.
I've seen that video. That's amazing. Jax, catch it. Take.
Friday then. Sunday one. It's Friday again. Sunday
boys, we'll take them to We'll see you guys here tomorrow morning at 8:45.
Yeah.
Seats by 9.
Could have said it up. What are you doing, a run or something?
So those guys want to do a run.